Do not adjust your screen. I have wiped the camera lens. This is just what the light is doing. In order to truly understand the nature of reality and our place in it individually, requires operation of much higher faculties. And by high, I mean like transcendentally high. In order to operate that requires Zen. You must master yourself so that your emotions don't get in the way of what it is that you're observing, and that they don't totally taint any ways in which you are creative. Requires Zen, true mastery. This requires enlightenment, and enlightenment requires self-awareness. Everything else that comes with it is like a consequence of that process, the journey, the lifetime of walking a path. So I had my 5 steps for becoming self-aware. Know thyself. To thyself be true. Know that you know nothing. Any fool can know. The point is to understand. If you think you understand, then you probably don't. Upon gaining some transcendental awakening, managing to properly understand, to grasp, to grok, as it were, to become one with this this self-awareness, the nature of reality and everything else, to even get a glimpse. There was a false enlightenment. It's a trap. Your ego is not out of the way. And once you have realized how to actually properly do that and done so, then you become the real path, the path to true enlightenment. At no point beyond true enlightenment could one consider oneself to be a master. And it's not about considering that. It's not about whether or not. You simply will come to a point where you realize that you are in that point. Not because you sought it, but because you persevered and continued on improving. And as you continue on this path, all of those consequences that all just unfold. In my case, it was somewhat similar to what Gautama did, that tried different things. Nothing worked. Finally, there was like a thing. Mine wasn't exactly like that. I'd say I kind of had to do it the hard way. I had to force myself to be able to see beyond just what my senses showed me in the immediate, so that it was no longer abstract, but something in memory. I think that's what attracts people to things like psychedelics. So I managed to uncover, I guess, to demystify my own, I don't want to say inner code. It's just not like that. But I found some instructions, 3 rules. I don't know if there are more. I just know that these are the ones I found. I probably talked about them before. Number 1, all is one. Number 2, observe, comma, be creative, period. Number 3, learn the language. The language is like dream symbolism. The language is of interaction. What becomes operation of the so-called machine in the higher dimensional thing that you've heard me talk about before if you're obsessively watching my videos. If you're not, sorry, man, you're going to have to find it somewhere back there. So, equivalent to, say, Yaldabaoth's false universe in the Gnostic traditions, the aforementioned, how did I put it? An event horizon containing abomination, but that there was something redeemable within it, and so there is a way out. And that Yaldabaoth is not in charge of that anymore. So that would be the universe of 3 dimensions, where all that you can perceive with your human senses, non-abstract, is all that exists. That is 3 dimensions. A 4th dimension is where you have the passage of time within such an environment. So 3 dimensions here, 4th dimension is time outside of that. Time actually has multiple dimensions. Outcomes in probability. This is the 5th dimension, the one above just time. It's one thing to be able to perceive forward and backward in time, operate the tesseract kind of thing. But in the 5th comes perception of probability in more of a sense of path of least resistance. And there are a lot of ways of abstractly describing it. It would basically be that there is not only the tesseract of every moment, but there would be another one containing every possible orientation or configuration of said tesseract. All possible likelihoods and outcomes become visible in the 5th dimension. Time is not a linear flow thing. Thinking of it that way, time requires 2 dimensions, and it doesn't require 2 dimensions. And again, we're talking path of least resistance kind of stuff here. Real forces of the universe. So the 5th dimension allows perception, but not navigation. Gaining the ability to choose adds 2 dimensions. So you're talking 7 dimensions. This is where you have 3, you have time, and you have 3. These 3 are temporal, not spatial. Their space is differences in outcomes, being different locations on a map or whatever. Again, that's abstract. So an eighth dimensional occupant could navigate probability while perceiving it without collapsing the wave function of whatever. But operation in the seventh dimension does. There is an observation problem. Paradoxes are prevented by it's kind of an automatic self-correction. The fact that you're popping the bubble changes the outcome. And if you tried to continue to do the same thing, you would just create a finite but very long loop. As long as you need it to go, it could go infinitely. But it would just be a longer curve in this probability of, like, you get the sports almanac and you come back and you make the bet, and this changes future outcomes, which means that you would have to then go back for any future bets. Talking about like in Biff's position, would have the thing would have to, a new copy would have to come back. The copy that you have would at that point become invalid after the first one that you use, and possibly even after the first one that you verify. It would be something where you couldn't do that, because by the time you got to checking with the first score, the fact that it's proven right changes the future, because you're going to say something to somebody. That's an observation problem within probability. So fifth through seventh dimension in this sense. But you have 3 dimensions of temporal movement in probability. The ability to navigate consciously without altering everything as you make choices takes place in the 8th dimension, which is why they say there are 8 heavens in some of this Gnostic stuff, and you can just murkily perceive the 9th, but beyond the 9th, you're told that there is more. Even that has a theoretical limitation on its philosophy. An outward particle horizon from the 3D that you become so far abstract from what we experience as living beings contemplating these ideas, which is what it ultimately comes down to, right? This is a video of me talking to my phone cam. I'm going to upload this and 6 people are going to watch it, talking about a way of thinking about the totality of everything, the so-called pleroma. I have no idea, nor can I probably conceive of, might be a limit there, what a higher dimension than 8, like, what would that mean? What would it be? Just another layer of probability encompassing all possible outcomes of one capable of navigating it without collapsing it. Each one would resemble differently, so a 9th dimensional observer would be what we would think of as a higher power that is encompassing every conscious experience as one of those 8-dimensional bubbles. So it's beyond our perception, or even our comprehension, the real workings of such a thing, but that it is a way of thinking about it that is closer to reality than just the symbolic metaphors. But if you want to explore it more fully, you have to get into your dream symbolism. The more you know, the more your brain can freely express. There are some things archetypally that get expressed to anyone who dreams and remembers it. Certain things everyone will see or whatever. And the weird, nigh on miraculous thing is that so many people have a number of these comprehensively. It's all there, but when you learn the symbolism, you are better able to recognize it when you see it. You learn that language and you observe in your dreams. And if you are able to be yourself while being in the dream, you can then possibly also seek these higher things that I've just described in a more experiential way there. For me, I saw something that was eldritch and Cthulhian through a candle flame, that the shape of the little candle flame became a rift. And through that rift, I could see like it was an infinite spread of those bubbles of 8D possibility. And there was this thing that was like eyes and like appendages. It was not malevolent in the least. It was really weird. But that is, as far as best as I can tell, the easiest way that I can articulate the nature of reality. That such an eldritch looking beyond what our brains can comprehend. This is ninth dimensions and above. And things that operate that, occupy that and operate above that, operate in ways that can directly affect all of us, either through collective unconscious or through some kind of momentary divine inspiration, spirit moves you kind of thing. I kind of had something like this bubbling up, and then there was video got suggested to me. Channel is called Third Eye Tyrone. So something that this video reminded me was, there had been said before, this will be my closing on this, that the first time you actually encounter your higher self and your soul through some transcendental means, you will mistake it for something else. An alien, God, an angel, who knows? Some people, I think maybe they think it's demons. Maybe that's a reflection of their own self-esteem. But it is really, each time we encounter something like that, an aspect of our own higher self. It kind of plays into the much more advanced version of us from the far, far distant future, transcending all of the physical, becoming gods, and then acting as such backward through time. It's quite possible that's what it is. And at the same time, because of what it is, still perfectly fits the description of what all these religious texts talk about. That's what I got. I'm going to go paint the roof today.